All right, welcome everybody. Before we start, I will hand over to Robert and Chris for karakia.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi mahana a kia koutou. Me karakia tātou. Whakatakita hau ki te uru, whakatakita hau ki te tonga, e mā kina ki uta, e mā taratara ki tai, e he ake ana te asukura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora.
Thank you, Chris and Robert. Well, welcome everybody to the Collingwood, to the God Making meeting for June in Collingwood. Where am I? Lost my thing. Apologies, thank you. Oh God, I couldn't see that one. Like, I'm sure I meant to apologize. We don't have any apologies today, but does anyone need to leave early? Any reason? Lovely, excellent. So we'll move into public forum today. We have 10 minutes and the Pākehā Residents Association, but Celia, you're going to present on behalf of them, I understand?
Well, no,
Or summarise.
I'm going to summarise because I did attend their AGM and there was discussion at their AGM about the siting of the Pākehā playground. And we had some respondents to the board suggesting that the little road reserve was not the right place. So there was discussion about it at the AGM, and there was actually a vote, an approval vote at the AGM. The majority of people wanted it to be on that road reserve where it was actually planned. There was discussion as to whether it should be at Tomatea Point, but there were concerns about the other uses of Tomatea Point, which are trailers and, boat trailers and stuff like that. So that, and I said, well, it would be good if somebody could come to the community board and just say that, but no one stood up, and that's fine. I'll just passed on.
Awesome. All right, thank you. All right. That's great. Any declarations of interest or anything on the agenda? Oh, Robert. Oh.
No, not I'm aware of.
Great. So that moves us on to the confirmation of the minutes. The minutes of the Golden Bay Community Board meeting held on Monday, 12th of May, 2025, be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Have a mover for that? That's Celia, and a seconder?
Yeah.
Lovely. All those in favour?
Right.
Thank you, Henry.
Oh, no.
No, sorry, can't be Henry, sorry. Change that to Robert. Right, apologies. No, sorry.
You can second if you're not
Oh,
there.
sorry. Oh, can you second if you're not there?
That's what Dennis Bushkin told me.
Oh, apparently you can second.
What did he tell you?
So you can second if you're not weren't present.
That's the word from on high then.
Yeah.
All right.
I believe it.
Yes.
That's on DV.
Seems odd though, doesn't it? Anyway, moving on though, I would not question the greatness. So no late items. No presentations. Then we move into discretionary fund.
Public forum.
Oh, sorry, Jane.
She's discretionary funds.
Oh, thank you. No,
sorry.
sorry, no, I just,
Okay.
oh, thank you though. Oh, sorry, Jane. Oh, right. So we have discretionary fund application, and I think Jane, you're here to speak to one of, we have two. Jane, you're here to speak to one.
So I'm here, my name's Jane Pearson, I'm here on behalf of Abbeyfield Golden Bay. And we applied for funding to help us to get a sunlight switch into our bollards. We have 9 bollards which we use as a security thing and also site for people that are coming in at night or whatever. These bollards have been notoriously unreliable, but we've had a bit of work done with Alan McLean to try and sort them out in terms of making them he is now saying we've got a sunlight switch and it should stop a lot of the problems that have been had. We've had timers, manual timers, so you set them, get them going, and then you reset them and decide they won't go. It's all this. So we're just trying to get an easy way to make them work all the time. Or come on and off depending on some of the times. And because we run on Snow Rag, and we're always hunting for money, I'm here to ask if you would please give us $500 towards the cost of a sunlight switch. Believe.
Yes. Does anybody have questions for Jane? Only one that is a facetious, so I'm not going to ask it. No, I'm just being cheeky, Jane, ignore me totally. So no questions, are we wanting to discuss it now, or Jane's here, so we're not holding her up and then go on to the next one?
Good idea.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can go first. I'm happy to grant that money to Everfield. Yeah. I almost asked Kim, sorry, Kim. Robert?
Yep.
Chris?
Yes.
I'm happy to second it. Yeah.
Great.
So the resolution is.
Yeah, we'll
there.
do something like that.
Yeah,
I'll hold
yeah.
Jane up while we discuss
Okay.
the Rockville one.
Yeah, lovely, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming
I'll
out.
come again.
Yeah. Please do. Lovely, thanks, Jane.
Oh, that's great, okay, Mark disappeared.
Excellent.
Thank you,
And then we can go
have an
back.
enjoyable meeting.
Thank you. So the next one is the Rockville.
Yeah.
Bowling club. As far as I could get, they're wanting prizes and things for their 75th year, which is quite cool, actually.
I'm not actually, is anybody clear about what they're actually?
Well, that's what I was gonna hope someone would clarify me. That's what I was thinking, the swap prizes, a monthly money match. I'm just all our
I was a little unsure.
the weekly money match. Okay, thanks, Rose.
Yes.
So yeah, weekly spot prizes, monthly money match.
There's a money man.
I don't know what a money match is. Does anyone know?
Well, here's the money mat weekly numbers.
So do you choose the,
Oh, no, see the attachment there?
yeah,
Yeah.
So I guess is it gambling?
it kind of is.
I think it is.
It kind of is, isn't it?
Well, how do you?
kind of
work?
raffles.
It's a raffle.
Yeah.
It's a
You
raffle.
think it's a raffle?
You choose number, oh no, is this
But it does feel like a gambling, doesn't it?
maybe they're pulling out the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money mat, weekly numbers.
Made $525. Oh, that's what you.
That's what they're giving.
Swap prizes, yeah.
Or do you think it's to do with the actual game of bowls?
Oh, I think, well, from what the way I read it was for prizes, so weekly spot prizes, monthly money match for 5 consecutive weeks, and then one $50 total something night, final night.
So it's sort of, is it,
So they're wanting to reward and twice new members, I guess.
There's nobody here to tell us. It's
No.
It's a bit tricky, the whole providing money for gambling though, isn't it?
it looks a bit like those charts, you know, on Facebook when they were just recently raising money. Remember, someone was going down south.
Oh, yeah,
And they had a thing where you could pick a number, you paid a different amount of
Your
money.
name on that spot.
And you could pay, like in this case, say number 4, you pay $2. But then I don't know how so that's how the fundraising happens, but I don't know what happens with the prize.
I'm guessing. really.
Yeah, we're having a good guess. Do we need to decline it on the grounds that we don't
Have enough.
have enough information?
Google money match.
Or we could go back with questions. Yeah, should we do that?
Leave it
I
to
think going back to the question and put on hold for
Maybe
now, or
Like
at
something
least
that's not gambling related, something else.
if they come
If Roy goes back with some other request for more information and to encourage them to attend.
Yeah,
Do you want to leave it to lie then and then yes, more information?
Yep, that sounds good. Is everybody comfortable with that?
And if it's that the prizes are being used as a fundraiser, I mean, I'm not inclined to support us giving money to, like, if they're fundraising money and the prizes are a part of that, they would be fundraising to buy something. I'd rather they just applied for the thing. They need some new bowling
Yeah, so
bowls, or they need something around it. So something that's more specific and concrete,
Yeah.
like a material, concrete item, I
So-
think is more
we just.
relevant.
I think if Roy goes back, maybe encourages that.
That's the explanation about how it works.
I think,
It doesn't
yeah.
really say specifically.
Yeah.
It's just give away spot prizes. I'm not comfortable with that.
It's
Aligned with the celebration of the prizes of
75th,
leading up to the
yeah.
anniversary.
Well, I'm quite comfortable with that, so we'll grant the Abbeyfield Golden Bay request. Leave the Rockville one for further information. Do we have a seconder?
Yep.
Made by Abby, seconded by Grant, all in favour?
right. In terms of the, going back to the bowlers, could Roy just ask, just to clarify if what they're using the prizes for is as a fundraiser?
Yeah.
That's exactly the purpose of what that is.
Yeah, I can do that.
You have to buy a mat or something.
Huh?
Looks like, so the prizes are per mat, isn't it? So there's 14, 15 mats. You get a mat, you get some money.
Right.
And total was $75 a day for the mat prizes. But what do you do to get a mat?
So the bowling, the match is the bowling match.
No, it's a money matters
The
of,
money on it.
it's a way of, I think it's a way of
Not
fundraising.
associated with the actual.
They need a mat.
So
we'll get some money
that's
for a mat.
what my question.
It's really quite weird.
Very unfair, I don't feel like it is a fundraiser. Maybe it is, I don't know.
Music.
I don't think it is.
No, I don't, it is not, but. Right, we'll find out. Okay, so that brings us to. Okay. So the village green, there is a report attached. Somewhere, where are you? Here it is, right, so it's an information only report, no decision required. But it's a report we requested when, the village green advised us that they were to us, and yeah, we just some of the follow up on how that is going to be managed going forward. Has anyone got any questions, comments?
Yes, I have a question or a comment, and that is, I have heard a suggestion in the community that Village Green have a committee formed in the same way that the Halls have a committee.
But that's what they had.
No, that didn't, it wasn't a council committee.
Oh, okay,
It was
possibly so,
independent, it was
independent.
completely independent. Would that make any difference as to whether or not they would allow commercial activity? I doubt that it would.
I don't know about
We've
that.
got Lynn and Grant from the arts team.
Oh, we do.
online too, if
Through
you'd
the
like.
chair, I don't know about that.
Oh.
I think I actually think the all committees are okay about having commercial ventures on them and raising funds and stuff. So wouldn't the green be the same?
We could take to Lynn, from my understanding,
Right.
would be covered by the same rules, wouldn't it?
Grant Reburns on.
Oh, Grant's in too.
Well,
Yeah,
Lynn's
Lynn.
here, Lynn's here.
The shadow. Hi, Lynn.
You so sorry, the light here is terrible. Through the chair, I don't believe a committee would change anything. It is a requirement that commercial activity, if it was to be agreed, they would need a consent to carry out that activity. And then it again comes down to who would manage it. So potentially the committee could manage it, but it's not going to change. It would not be an automatic thing for it to proceed. Commercial activity. And saying that, we can have one-off events. Grant did ask me this question because I believe there's a couple of organisations that run little fets and galas and things. So as long as they book the village green through our booking system, those can still proceed on a case by case basis. But ongoing commercial activity is very, very difficult to move forward.
Okay.
Is there a difference between a hall and the village green? Because aren't halls on reserves as well?
Grant, do you have some thoughts on that?
Not off the top of my head. I'd need to have a look at, the individual case would probably be the best bet, I think.
Sorry, Chris.
This is a situation whereby the village green has had a particular culture, you could say, or a way of doing what they do and what they've set up and done, which has included having stalls of various kinds where people do make money, whether that's the homeschoolers running their annual stalls there, and kids make muffins and sell them, and organic producers on there. In the summer, there are people that come and sell jewellery and hats and things, and they book in, I think, and do that. So are we saying that as it hands over to council more, the management's going to council, is it the case then that we're going to then follow the protocols that are usual for what council's does in other places? I just think it's a shame if we lose some of that flavour. And what's gained through doing that? Might follow the letter of the law in terms of a policy or something else. But I'd like to think there's a bit of room to move around. It adds a bit of vibrancy and colour to the Kapika, townscape.
I do hear what you're saying, and I guess I would have similar concerns if we didn't fix the junction green, which Carolyn then might allow people to use. I know it's not the centre of town, but there's still an option for people.
Through the chair. Yeah, that's why I don't understand the difference between a hall and a reserve, because I think, it should be handled the same way. And it's only on a Friday, and it's usually only in the summer. For the village green.
Wednesday.
Oh, and a Wednesday, but that was very specific. It was only for local organic producers. You had to be organic, you had to be a local. So there was only one of them. Because when they started the idea, it was 3 and they all sort of worked out. That was the idea of that one. So, yeah.
Friday markets in summer.
Yeah, that's the one that's.
Why would we stop?
So, through the chair, if I may, the regular activity, commercial activity, probably should never have been allowed, and it's really only that it's come to this point that has become apparent that that activity was occurring, and it was not really through the Reserves Act. It should not have been happening. With regard to halls, we don't generally, again, other than one-off events. So I think we need to be clear, one-off events are very different to ongoing regular commercial activity. But we don't, we're not aware of halls actually carrying out commercial activity on the reserve land. What they do within the halls, I suspect, comes under the hall committees. And what they agree to, but commercial activity should not be spilling out onto the reserve area surrounding the halls.
I've just got a question. Kristen Celia.
So it hasn't been gazetted as a reserve under the Reserves Act. Held as freehold land, not subject to the Reserves Act. I don't know, I'm just disappointed if we get too tight here, when there's not even a legal criteria for it being reserved currently.
Through
Oh,
the
sorry,
chair.
Lynn, sorry, response.
Through the chair, just in this report, it does state the land fits the criteria of being a park under section 138 of the Local Government Act. And that means it's managed by council as a park. So therefore we are treating it as we would any other park or reserve. So that's 4.4 in the report.
Life.
Earlier.
So my question is, just thinking about, there's a food store, which is there regularly over the road. Is that on pavement or is it on private land? Because I'm just wondering whether or not they could actually move onto the pavement.
Well, I don't think they would be permitted to do anything on road reserve. I would assume without actually knowing exactly where that cart is, but I would make an assumption that it's actually probably on private land.
Is it?
Yeah,
It's on the church land, I see, okay,
Church land?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the driveway.
right.
So,
Grant.
yeah, through the chair, look, doesn't mean that because it hasn't got reserve status, that it actually doesn't have the same protection as a reserve, and it could be sold, as we've seen with other pieces of land recently, coming up through council, that aren't actually reserved, but are looking at being sold. So where does it fit there?
So through the chair again, please. The original agreement with the Acquisition Society and Council was that it would be gazetted as a reserve. That just hasn't happened. But I would suggest as we review or update our Golden Bay Ward Reserves Management Plan that it would probably get picked up through that process. So that the original agreement was that it would be formally made a reserve.
So do we need to work on helping that happen?
Sounds like Lynn will pick it up through the process, yeah.
Everyone else supported what I'm saying.
Sorry, I missed, was there a question there for me?
Oh, yeah, do you need the community board to endorse this?
I understand that the Golden Bay Wards Reserve Management Plan, which looks at all our reserves in Golden Bay, is on the cards for renewal or review in the fairly near future. So I would suggest it is addressed at that time.
3 years. 3 years away still. It's about 25 years
It's
later.
Grant, maybe Grant. But,
Yeah. Just through the chair, I was speaking to Anna Geraghty about the time frame for this, and it probably is a couple of years away in reality, just due to the amount of workload that she has on. But that may change, of course.
yeah, well, I think the last review of our reserves was about 2000, what was it?
2003.
2003.
I think so, yeah. Yeah. Off the top of my head.
So it's really well overdue that we get a review, and 2 years away is a long time. So I'd like the community board, I propose that the community board request that our reserves review happen before 2 years away.
I'll see that.
Well, yeah. We'll just do that, the team that would do that work aren't able to do it until
Yeah.
then, so just
So
trying to
I
make the
guess-
point.
I guess my question then, Lynn, would be, is there a danger of not having it gazetted as a reserve or grant? Is there a danger that it might be
No,
sold off or not?
no. Not with the history. I don't believe it would ever be sold off. it's right in the centre of town. It's quite an important little community space. I don't imagine it would ever be sold off. You know, and it was a gift basically to council from the community. It's not something that would fit well with anybody for that to be sold off.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. That was my concern.
There's one last question from me, if I could. Lynn, so fundraising and charity and awareness raising events are still going to be permitted?
Absolutely. Any community event, anybody that is organising, you know, get sing along, anything like that is absolutely fine. Again, but we would like to see those sorts of things go through our formal booking system. And that's for two reasons. One, so that we don't have a double up of two competing activities. And two, so we can actually keep a really good eye on health and safety, because these events do bring things onto a reserve that have a potential for health and safety risk. So we just want to be able to manage that to a level that keeps everybody safe.
Thank you, Grant.
Through the chair, does it also mean that little Johnny with his violin scratching away isn't allowed to busk on there anymore?
I think something like busking, I don't know. Grant, do you feel differently? Grant Rayburn?
No, I'm just making sure it's clear.
Should be clear.
Other Grant.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, too many Grants. Grant?
Probably if it was an occasional thing, I mean, I personally don't see any issue with it, but, you know, if it was a regular occurrence, then I guess it fits, you know, under the, you know, dare I say it, the commercial activity.
Don't say it.
No, it would be 7.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Lynn and Grant. Was anyone got any further comments on that report? Thank you for putting it together for us. Right. The Waikato Pupu Springs Water Conservation Order.
Sorry, I've just got another, just a follow-up question as to communicating with the people who have been using the village green.
I believe Lynn's already
Has Lynn already done that?
Yeah, she has. She didn't want to be surprised by him.
Okay,
Is that right, Grant? There was
Through the chair, yes, I spoke with the organic people last week. They will run one more stall there on Wednesday because they felt they didn't quite have enough time to arrange an alternative. So we've agreed to that, and they're aware of it. They were really good about it. So yeah. And in terms of other events, and it'll be interesting how we work the summer markets. But I will get a notice made up for the notice board just advising that we no longer allow that, and for just non-commercial events, I'll outline the process for how they need to go through council for those.
Just through the chair, that does bring me up to the notice board, which is on there currently, and again, it's providing community notices rather than commercial activities, and so who's actually going to be physically walking past and policing that and looking after it when something's, you know, been there for 5 years? Well,
it's in the report. Pretty sure, Lynn, was that correct? Sorry.
So through the chair again, yes, the Village Green Acquisition Society did say that they often do remove commercial notices, and that sometimes that gets a little bit tense. So they have said they will continue to keep an eye on it because they, you know, it does provide value to the community, and we would like to see it remain. But if it starts getting out of hand with a whole lot of commercial notices, then if we can't control it or manage it, then we may need to consider removing that, but it would be a last resort.
And one more thing, there is a very large yellow gazebo, double gazebo, which was acquired specifically for the green, which I believe is being held down at somewhere, maybe Mahua Social Services, for people when they hired the, village green to use, over the staged area. So there was some shade for the musicians. Will that still be around? Will that be made publicly available? It's still there for use? Do we know much about that?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know anything about that at all.
Okay,
So I guess we'd have to speak with, was it held by the Village Green Society?
I'm not sure if it was, or it was whether it's part of the, I was the recreation person here
Yeah.
100 years ago. And, I could remember it being purchased, because we had the Mardi Gras based out of there, and so it might be that.
I actually bought it, donated it,
Oh,
so I know about it.
you do know about it.
Yeah,
So I wonder if Dave and Lyle might know. I've never seen it. I've never seen.
it was
Like,
used at all the
it is.
Mardi Gras, and it has been used since, I think. It's big, it cost over $1,300.
Yeah.
It was a decent one.
Yeah, Brian is gonna catch it, put it down
Thank you.
as an action.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Community was one here.
Yeah,
They might,
because Dave used to be based out there too, so.
yeah.
Mm.
It was specifically for the Village Green.
Okay, all right. Any more on the Village Green?
I'd just like to say that I'm a bit disappointed about the change in use there. I get the thing about it's going to be reserve, and so it's to follow, council's reserve protocols, but I think for very little, there's no harm, no foul, to use a sporting analogy. So I can't, be stupid to vote against receiving a report, but, there's just no sort of, doesn't cause any fuss, having a bit of life going on there.
I
And that's
agree.
all I'm gonna say about that.
Agree with that.
I agree.
Green. All right, moving on. The Springs, the WCO, we received a letter from, did you say farmer or farmer?
Farmer.
I reckon it's probably farmer, because they're farmers.
Farmers.
Yeah, farmers across the Marble Aquifer, there you go. So open to the board to invite representatives from farmer to elaborate on their views. If we are open to that as a board, having them come along and chat to us. Present.
I think it's a very good idea, and I'm a part of the catchment forum advisory sort of group that's come up and formed and meeting pretty regularly, and you might have seen some events advertised about that, and so people doing things on their property. There was a forum at the rec centre over a day where people presented what they'd been doing on their properties over the years and decades, and there was a Hikoya trip planned down through the catchment where people went along onto different properties. So there is an eye on the Cod Mitigation Fund money that's going to come free in a year or two, another lump on best bang for buck for that. But as part of that group, I did let, and a couple of the farmer people were at that last meeting, and usually are. I just say that, at council, I do make a little update or invite Merck or someone to, let council know that things are happening over here in terms of the WCO. And because the farmer group they're very active, being very productive, but have just gone about their own business. And I thought that there was a point at which, when they feel ready to, because also they have data that's theirs and how that gets used, and they mentioned that later. But just that if there was a point at which there's a wider sort of communication, so people know a bit about what's happening, and I can imagine a sort of a good publicity piece
It'd be great
nationally.
to celebrate.
So the letter came, I think, a response out of that meeting. And I
Yes.
think for the board to understand who farmer are and what they're doing would be a
Great.
important thing.
And as I say, great for them to celebrate the work they're doing towards it and all the conservation work in general as well. Just important for the community to understand.
through the chair, is that the TET?
No.
They have the TET have contributed a facilitator for that for them, but, quite a few different people are there. So farmer, Manawhina Wiki Mohua, I went along from Manawhina Wiki Mohua, but I have this link as well. Doc there from, Andrew from Doc, and a number of others, so it's good, it's aggressive.
Shall we, sorry, not so much. Celia?
So, I think that's great, you know, that backing up what Chris has said. Council, because of changes coming from the government, council is now actually constrained in its plan change 84, which is to do with its freshwater plan change. And so it's actually now just focusing on the requirements set by the Environment Court for the water conservation order. And this work that farmer are doing feeds into that. So it's one piece of work that council is having to progress, whereas there are other parts of the water plan change that they are not, because the government are signalling that they're going to change things.
We need to submit on that change.
The plan change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not out for consultation yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But the government, I mean, we'll talk to the consultation that is coming from the government about the RMA changes. So this farmer work is one thing that is feeding into council.
So pretty interesting too, what they've been doing, yeah.
I think
Really?
well worth inviting them to a community board meeting.
Yeah.
Well, extend an invitation, thanks, right?
And just noting that they want to keep the data per property private.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, so it's not like a 5-minute thing, but like if we
No,
can actually give a
okay.
decent amount of
Half
time.
an hour of
Questions.
Yeah, it'd be great. Excellent, okay. The Anawika Waka. So the report is, and Chris, you were saying that went really well. Did I overhear that conversation?
Yeah, so there's a report to council seeking a decision for that land, which is some reserve status. It's not much there. It's local purpose reserve but it's it's reserve heritage. So the report was seeking that as the place that we can. Council saying yes, it's okay to use that should everything line up. So there's a whole lot of work to do now around, you know, what consents would be required, what flood levels are, all that sort of thing you need to do. I'm a part of the working group, which is made up of Margie Little and me and a chap called Aaron, who's been museum background and a consultant in sorts of ways. Jenna Neem, who we know, who was at council, and Billy from Ngāti Kuia. And then there's a steering group that goes a little bit wider and includes the CEs of the 4 iwi, 3 here in Ngāti Kuia. And quite a lot of, you know, over the 12 years since the waka was found, there's been a lot of different sites considered. And medium-term things that could happen until you could get the money for a greenfields. A lease was taken on the BNZ building in town, not yours, the other one, by the Ministry of Culture and Heritage, because that's what we're going to use and develop that. it became more and more clear that the operational cost year to year for something of national and international significance shouldn't fall to a small hapu, really. So anyway, over the years, things have shifted and changed, and we are working with the museum around developing on that site next to them. And it's not like it'll be, it's still to be worked out about separate, attached, one entrance way, all those things. We've received $136,000 from DIA funding to do these next stages of design and, you know, building up to detail design, going out to, we've had an architect involved, going out to a slightly wider group of architects around what they'll propose. So it's a yeah, unless there's some deal breakers around that bit of land, there will need to be a public consultation process, community consultation, because of the status of the land, but also, of course, you want to hear from people. And fortunately, where the waka is now, it's getting to a very, very stable stage in terms of its air drying, but it can stay there indefinitely in that environment controlled space for however long it takes to get this building built. That's much more than I thought I was going to say.
I look forward to seeing it in its space.
Just through the chair, is that ownership thing still in the pipeline?
Yeah.
It's a bit of controversy around who owned it.
Not really, not controversy, but when the Crown owns all kawa or artifacts when they emerge, and Māori Land Court processes happen to determine ownership, and that hasn't happened yet for a number of reasons. But also there's a slight nervousness amongst us that once ownership is determined, we're worried that the Ministry of Culture and Heritage will go a bit hands off. So they have agreed to be involved in the funding of getting the waka moved and whatever setup it needed in the facility. So things were a little, you know, and they seem to be in real chaos as our agency. Super chaos. So we've had really strong relationships there for 12 years, and it's just difficult to get a hold of anybody now. So there's a few factors in that. But then, of course, we're imagining getting the funding to build the building, but then who owns it, whether it gets handed to council or is a joint thing, or governance, operation, maintenance, all that. So a bit complicated. I'm thinking it's going to be a great wee draw for our town.
Is there any sort of synergy with the Chatham Island situation?
What I'd say about that is that I know that all the MCH's money has gone to that project. They've cleaned out their bucket. No, I think until, it was interesting to me when I heard the reports, you know, on RNZ and other places and interviews around that waka, amazing find. Dating hasn't been done yet as far as I know, carbon dating. But it was interesting to me that some of the commentary was talking about, oh, this is the first thing that's been found. And I thought, you know, but yeah, certainly very aware of those folk, and we tend to invite the iwi up to us who have waka projects that they're involved with down.
Just think with a different iwi interests coming together, there might be a stronger voice to government, mightn't it? Just the two acting as partnership.
Yeah. And I think they haven't completely unearthed that waka piece yet.
Yeah,
They've had to
pieces,
leave some of the ground, I think, so they don't have the money to carry on. Thank you. I've said even more than I thought I would.
So we move on to the consultation on updating the RMA national direction. We agreed. Anyone got any questions or comments around those pieces of information?
Just probably to add that this was sort of first sort of socialised within council at the Environment and Regulatory Committee at the beginning of the month. It was sort of the day before government had made their announcements, so we were we were sort of assuming various things would happen, and indeed they did. And so government's now got 4 packages that focus on the RMA in play now. 2 of them are quite definitive consultations because they actually want, they've got ideas out for various national policy statements, etc. Package 3 is sort of a socialising, and that's where the government's expectations for freshwater are now being sort of tabled. And I think over the weekend, package 4 was announced, which is going for growth in the housing sort of space. So in terms of back in council, the staff are clearly not able to deal with the providing responses right across the board, because it's unhearable, this level of reform being announced at the one time. And it's all the lead up to the new RMA, which is coming later this year. So all the stuff is sort of adjusting the RMA as we know it, but it's all got to fit with the future state of the future legislation when the Resource Management Act goes, and it's replaced by the other 2 acts. So we are relying quite heavily on the other national sort of organisations that represent council's interests. So that's Tutu Kahaka represents the regional arm, and Taitū represents the territorial arm. So those entities are also scrambling around trying to get sort of like, what is the messaging to government from all of these different things. And as a council, we have a small team connected with various councillors who are going to decide which of the things that we put our effort into giving communications back to government. And it's not, we talked about the RMA here, but that's not the only thing that's going on at the moment. I think today is the last day for responses to the regulatory standards bill, something like that, which is hugely controversial. It's something that's been sort of introduced by the ACT Party, and it's got a lot of reaction from academics, and from the one angle of it, it's trying to standardise the way regulation and legislation is sort of put together. And then the other angle is it's not necessarily picking up on a lot of the obligations that we normally would take into account with legislative matters. So that's just another example that, you know, it's not all about the RMA. There's plenty of other stuff in the game as well. So this was just a way of just sort of trying to bring that to your attention, really, without suggesting that there's you know, in particular the community board might want to engage in. But I do think that when you are considering the progress that Farmer have made, it would be quite useful to have a policy oversight at that time of what's in play with the freshwater. So you can get a bit of comfort that obviously there's a planning process that we're undertaking here, but it's also in the context of national direction being reshaped. So I think it might be quite useful for a bit of a sense from one of the planners to prior to then, you know, gives you a better opportunity to understand where the farmer guys are trying to, you know, take their efforts.
And can you imagine? I just imagine the tension between the WCO and what that requires, and what that requires of council to ensure it's implemented, and these other changes going on that might not line up. And in my mind, I just end up with a big grey fuzzy. Like I just can't.
The WCO is very, very national, very, you know, it's very, very local to us. And it might not be, you know, uppermost of mind where the national direction is going there. So. No,
I suppose I was thinking about where criteria could end up, or, you know, regs and things, standards, end up being at cross purposes. And given that, so with the fast track process that was, you know, the government has said, well, WCOs don't get considered. So anyway, I just have some nervousness around where it all lands and where that leaves the WCO. I know we still have to do that, but
that's why I kind of think it'd be really good to get a policy lens across things, so you sort of know the ground that is.
Well, that's the challenge of the policy team, isn't it? Barry Johnson and Lisa McGlinchey, they're actually wrestling with that potential misfit at the moment and trying to work out how they can satisfy the requirements of the Wood Conservation Order, which is to make best efforts to start a plan change. That's a legal requirement, and how to fit that in with the RMA changes that have been signalled, because they do seem to be a little bit at cross purposes.
And of course, the signals, in this case, are consultative signals, they're not actually proposals in the sense that it's very uncertain as to what the WCO changes need to fit into.
There's this consultation by the sounds of it, that's something. And can I add in terms of that, I just see that, that, I mean, it's sort of I feel like we're in an area in terms of local government of quite a bit of chaos, really. I know someone's got a plan somewhere with all, I don't know what they do actually, but, and I just see, the Prime Minister coming out and saying, well, that they're open to scrapping regional councils. Like we are, in terms of local government, it's like everything's just been thrown up in the air, in my view, and I just find it incredibly disappointing, such a lack of consideration for democracy, actually. Why don't you go out to New Zealand and say, you want regional councils? This is what they do. So incredibly disappointing, and it's sort of weird to be involved in a organisation and that's being so disrupted, actually.
So it makes them tricky. Any more comments or around RMA?
So the board would be happy if we do ask the policy team,
I think so. That would make a lot of sense
Bit
to
of a
come in
update where things are.
before
Yeah.
with Margaret, yeah. Yes, thanks, Ray. Okay, so we've done our consultations as well. Item from board members.
Can I just, consultation, sorry. I think it was really good to have this in the board report, and I wonder if it could be kind of a sort of standard part of our report in the future, so that we have it just helps us to remember what's going on. We don't always have, because we've got 6 weeks between meetings, and we're not at council all the time to see what's actually going on. It would actually be a really great reminder for us as a board to know that these are coming up and that we can consult on. I just think that'd be really good.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Seems like a good idea.
Well, it's only relevant to us, obviously. Yeah.
Well, it's good to know. It's good to know what's happening throughout the year as well. We can always have those in the end if they not relevant on Bay or not applicable, whatever. Come up with wording, but yeah. Grant.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to bring up Pohara Hall. I know there's a lot of 4 years ago, we had no committee at the Pohara Hall. Pohara Hall was quite run down. It was just sitting, it wasn't being used a lot. It was only being used by a few weddings and a silks. Okay? Anyway, the committee started up with thanks to April, actually. We started that committee or got that motion happening that the committee would be formal, which is going to be finishing. It's going to be re-elected as an AGM coming up after our elections. Has anyone here been down to the Pohara Hall recently and had a look at what's going on down there and what it looks like?
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. It's
Right.
really, really good. And it really needs a bit of an accolade to these guys because, they've taken it from a relatively rundown place to something that, and I've got a list here on the table of all the things that they've done since 2021. And they've won an award for that they've done.
Well, the building.
The building won the award, sorry. Yes, you're right, sorry.
Was there a fundraising award?
They've done quite a bit of fundraising. They've got it back up to what it used to be like, perhaps when I came to the Bay and there was events down there. It's got it back up to there. They've even got the chiller running again for keeping people's beer cold, It's and I mean it was designed by a cement company for union meetings probably in the 60s, but it has actually and the time to actually get where it is now, and I just would like to really say that the committee, which is Tracy, Sarah, Anita, Sian, Don, Jet, who's only 11, so it's a youth on there. Rita and Chucky, hey? Who? The Jet's here. He. Little
Oh,
fellow
different
who,
jet, sorry.
Yeah.
Different jet.
and
It's cool that they've got a youth voice.
and Clarissa. So, you know, it's a hall worth mentioning for the fact that they've done, and all the halls are really fantastic in the Bay, don't get me wrong. I think it's really a really great thing. We were going to lose a whole lot of halls a few years ago when the rec centre was built. And that was the intention.
One would go.
One
Or two.
or two, maybe. Yeah, O'Hara Hall, they were looking at it as a possibility to go. But it's come back from the brink of yeah. It's just really an accolade.
Nice.
And isn't it great that there's funding available within council to assist that? So a lot of funding has gone in to pay for
Dollar for dollar raised.
whole, you know, the roof and painting and the
Oh, yeah.
windows and all of that. So there's been good liaison, I think, between the committee and whatever processes within council around these are the things that need to be done. And actually, I did say to Anita at some point, what about the internal seating? She, I think it was Anita, maybe someone else who said, well, actually, we've actually just decided we're just going to do this year and then that and that next year. But the funding was available to do a whole lot more. I just didn't feel like they could manage a whole lot of things at once. So it's good working in with council and the funding we have for those purposes. We did look at the building for could you do something around Waka there and to buy it for $1 back then. Bulldoze.
The reserves fund help pay for a new roof.
And I just spoke to April Turnbull, who was a previous member of this board, because she wanted to get a committee going again. And I said, Lynn's still online, but because there was no committee, it was actually fell to council to manage the hall. But now April said we need to have a committee, and she was a founding member of the new committee, and it's actually developed and
Yes, so
totally agree with what
I'll
you're saying.
table that. If that's right, that's what's been done.
Oh, thank you. So moving on to the attachments. There's the farmer letter, but right, I noticed we're missing, I didn't even see, sorry, just until now, of the letter of concern. Or is that attached to Lynn's report? Maybe that's where that is. The letter of concern from the residents, with the Pekawar playground.
Yeah, what?
It should be correspondence.
Yeah.
at least.
Was it sent to community board or was it sent to us individuals? Sent to community. Yeah, so that makes it then public, that makes it then publicly available. Okay, all right. I'm just wondering if we needed a response to that.
We probably should respond.
So it was the community board, not the reserves team. Just need to correct.
That's fine.
Yeah, just need-
It's because of the discretionary funding because we're granted discretionary funding for the playground and they queried the siting of the playground.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah, that could,
there was
yeah.
a response from Lynn Hall that there would that they would commence seeking the consent in the meantime.
I guess that's good enough response.
And
So everybody's happy with that one.
Well, who's writing that in?
Lynn's already responded saying that we've got
To those folks.
yeah, I'll just check.
Staff response.
Staff response from, we can check that during the project report.
And then my response from the feedback from the AGM was that the majority of members of the Equal Risk Association agreed with having them.
Okay,
Side.
thank you.
Sorry,
All right.
through the chair, sorry, can I just clarify? I haven't
please,
responded. I haven't
you haven't.
responded to them, no. So initially I consulted with 5 neighbours and they responded directly to me. which I conveyed to the board at the last meeting, and I didn't go down and drill down into the detail of their concerns because I didn't want to identify them.
Yeah.
Since then, they have written to the community board. So I don't know if the response needs to come now from the community board, that the way forward is that we are about to apply for a resource consent and they will be notified as part of that process or ask for their feedback as part of that process.
Yeah. Are you happy to do that, right, on behalf of the board? Just to response to the, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn.
Work with me.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the general actions update. Sorry, I'll show you. Amy.
Got a text that's just come in from Renee. Can I just tell you about that?
Yeah.
So that's when Renee and Kelly Hayes and Adam Henderson have been from council.
Oh, yeah.
Have been at UKM meeting and they're on their way here to see us about 2:30, they think, and they can give an update on the Port Takohi redevelopment.
Oh. Let's finish for the giving. We can pick up a
We
bit.
might need a bit
Do,
of a tea break.
Yeah, we will.
do we need to respond, or is that the next meeting about the letter we got about that cycleway?
That was received too late, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's right.
It'll be a next meeting.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, sorry, no, the interactions first, my bad. Can we move the village green report as part of the board report, or do they need a separate mover and seconder?
That's separate, because there's two reports, but.
Okay, all right, I'm happy to move that the board report be accepted. Can I have a seconder, please? Grant, thank you, all in favour? Lovely, the Takohi village green report, move to accept.
Just received.
Celia and Henry. Not ask all those in favour? No. Cool. So into our general actions report. The Waitapu Bridge toilets can come off, I believe, so yes.
Well, disappointingly, obviously.
Yeah,
I did have a bit of a moan about it at some council meeting around, you know,
I know.
people go down there and use the place and it might, council can say, well, it's not our land now. I'm told the toilet needed some upgrade anyway. People are gonna toilet in the bushes down there.
Yep.
People swim there, kayak, fish, boat, walk. There's no toilet there. I just find it just
It's a shame.
it's pretty dumb, really. And I don't know whether there's a bit of, I don't know where the council land boundaries are down there, or then you get really close to the flood zone. You know. Oh,
I know. The golden discretionary fund application, thing, not that was included in the new
not good.
board matters. Oh, yeah, and emailing to youth council can come off because that's continuing.
Oh,
Wait, sorry.
something on that. So youth council from all around Tasman and some Nelson. Youth council members were at Tasman District Council the other day. And some of us went in and chatted with them at lunchtime and sort of organised groups with discussion about various things. And I was with, among others, two Golden Bay young folk. And the woman from the youth hub that came into community board and spoke on their behalf last time.
Yes.
What's her name?
Karen.
Karen. And she said that, I said, well, there's a community board meeting on Monday. And she said, well, we haven't been advised of that. So can we just get sorted around our comms to the youth council members? And I don't know, if a bit of contact ahead of time by somebody with the agenda report to say these are the things we're discussing. We just need to put a bit of an arm around them, I think, and bring them in more realistically and genuinely.
Thought we were invited.
Well, they didn't get it, they didn't know. They didn't know.
All right, I'll make sure that.
maybe we invite them to, if they have anything for the I mean, for the agenda too,
Yeah,
or at least the speaking part, if they do.
and there's someone here to be linking and, you know, sort of helping activate their involvement, but.
Henry, you
Yeah,
still
well,
wanted to be that
Yeah,
person? I know that they all fell off and then they probably restarted and let Henry know, because it
Well-
was bringing them.
yeah,
They were
it's sort of,
coming.
yeah, it's sort of, yeah. Piece it out, but there's, yeah, I guess,
Maybe make contact with the
Yeah.
youth hub. Because I
Make
think that's
contact with
most
them,
of
yeah.
who's got the funding for.
Ainsley and Joy to.
Yeah.
Send it out.
Yeah, over the hill.
Golden Bay High.
Check in with Henry and go from there.
Okay, good. So that is, we don't need to move that, we need to move the financial report. So I'm happy to take the financials as read, unless Robert, it looks like you have a question though.
Well, I have a comment that 1.3 on that report says to keep expenditure within budget, spending in the second half of the year, you will have to find savings. That is quite irrelevant.
With 1 month to go.
Yes, with 1 month to go. And I will point out that some of the spending is over budget simply because it's part of the special projects, for example. When we spent $10,000, which was to the Rockville School, but the budget's only 5,145. So I'm just saying there are reasons why we're over budget, and that's sometimes because we're spending historical reserves.
Yeah.
And that's not recognised.
Right.
Other than that.
All right, is someone have to move that we accept that report?
Yeah, I'll move accept it.
Seconder? I will. All those in favour?
Receive it, I don't accept it.
Yeah, see, but I was.
Just wondering if you try and race through the special projects
It's not
report.
like that.
and then, no, there's not. And then we can have a quick 2 minutes before
Yes.
Renee and Adam and what have you get there. All right, let's go. The race. Special projects. Well, it's just information only, no decision required, but we'll have a look at the
Playground?
oh yes, action sheet, that's what I wanted.
Oh,
So the Packleball playgrounds all go, it's going to be go through the consent progress, the planting tunnels. So Taki Promo recently discussed happy with the tunnels proceed, so there'll be a draft MOU. Which Lynn, I am assuming you'll work on.
Yes, I sent that to the school and they discussed it at their Board of Trustees meeting. And they agreed they were happy for the tunnels to proceed based on that. They have since signed it and returned it, but I need Grant Reburn just to review the MOU and make sure that he's happy with it. And once he may need to make changes that we may have to get them to sign again. But yeah, really, it's as long as we get that MOU tied up, it'll be good to go.
Okay. Great, thank you. And the commercial street fence replacements. Oh, I don't know why
We
this
agreed
is so
last
hard.
week, we agreed last month that, 6 weeks, give it a month.
Yes. Mhm.
And if no progress had happened, then we would go with the
Council.
The council from over the hill.
yeah,
Yep, cool, let's do it.
and so it's 6 weeks.
We talked to Frank Byrne at any point.
You-
He's a council approved.
I don't know, Grant.
And it's not frankly no.
We'll hear from Lynn about.
I just, Lynn, have you been in contact with Ed Vanderson?
No, I understand he's the young chap that was going to apply for council approval. Is that?
Yes.
I haven't heard directly from him. Do you know any more about it?
I spoke to him on the weekend and he said he was going to get in touch with you today.
I think we just have to revert back to the weekend.
Because that's gonna be another six
Yeah,
months.
I think we move forward. We made the decision to give it a month. It's been over that. And he's not made any advances in anything as far as I'm aware, Lynn. So I have to move forward with an approved contractor.
Now, somebody mentioned he has made advances.
Oh, is it?
And I just need to find out how far or whether that in fact is true in the first instance, and then if so, you know, how close he is to getting that approval stamped, signed, sealed and delivered. There's
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
quite a process.
Okay.
What, 6 weeks?
So no, another 6, well, we'll have to be held off to our next meeting then. So if we could get that info by our next meeting, then that would be great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Order of defence. Righty ho. So that brings us, oops, I skip pages. Do we want to have the update as part of the meeting, or do we close the meeting and then have the update come from the team? Close the meeting. Okay, cool. Oh, who did that? Oh, did I skip that? You can just double check. Oh, no, Robert. Didn't you approve the financial?
I accepted them, received them.
Oh, good, we've done that. I didn't skip it, that's good. So I'm happy to move the special projects on. Can I have a seconder? Celia, all those in favour? Lovely. So that actually brings us to the end of our meeting, so we'll just close with karakia, Robert and Chris. Do you want to-
Oh, there we go. It's up there now.
Oh, good.
All good?
Yep.
He kara ki tātou. Kia hora te marino, kia whakawhaka paunamu te moana. Aroha atu, aroha mai. Tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora.
Thank you.
That's how we do things